Off the mark. In 2009, India's general elections, also referred to as the national elections, was the largest democratic election in the world until the Indian general elections 2014 held from April 7, 2014. Shortly before the general elections, pollsters predicted a close fight between the coalition parties, the United Progressive Alliance UPA, and the National Democratic Alliance NDA. Uh, Cephalologists envisioned that while the UPA might have the upper hand, the National Democratic Alliance could not be written off. They predicted that the United Progressive Alliance would get between 201 and 235 seats in the 14th Lok Sabha, the lower house of India's bicameral parliament, and the National Democratic Alliance between 165 and 280 between 165 and 186 seats. The actual results were surprising. A United Progressive Alliance got 262 seats, while the National Democratic Alliance could only manage to get 157 seats. What could be the possible reason for opinion polls being off the mark? In countries that do not have homogeneous population, such as India, caste, religion, and geographies influence electoral outcomes greatly. Vulnerable sections of the population may be afraid to disclose their actual preference. Political polls have since become much more sophisticated and adjust for sampling bias, but they still can make mistakes. If opinion polls do not randomly select samples across various locations and select sections of people, they may still not hit the mark. Source Atul Thakur, why opinion polls are often wide off the mark. The Times of India, April 13, 2014. Back to the main text. The importance of random sampling. We have assumed that big Y sub 1 through big Y sub n are independently and identically distributed draws such as those that would be obtained from simple random sampling. This assumption is important because non-random sampling can result in big Y bar being unbiased. Suppose that to estimate the monthly national unemployment rate, a statistical agency adopts a sampling scheme in which interviewers survey working age adults sitting in city parks around 10 a.m. on the second Wednesday of the month. Because most employed people are at work at that hour, not sitting in the park. The unemployed are overly represented in the sample, and an estimate of the unemployment rate based on this sampling plan would be biased. This bias arises because the sampling scheme oversamples the unemployed members of the population. This example is fictitious but off the mark. But the off the mark box gives a real world example of biases introduced by sampling that is not entirely random. It is important to design sample selection schemes in a way that minimizes bias. Appendix 3.1 includes a discussion of what the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually does when it conducts the U.S. Current Population Survey, CPS. The survey it uses to estimate the monthly U.S. unemployment rate.